Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Shannon with PokerStrategy.com, and we are here with, I'm sure you recognize him, Jonathan Little. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
Hi. And we're at the WPT Borgata Poker Open and watching right now the final table.
We are. It's been exciting so far.
It has. It's been a great series so far in this final table. I mean, there's a lot of sick stuff going on. I wanted to get your take on what you see happening.
So far, it seems like everyone is playing reasonably well, besides the one amateur player at the table, Matthew. He has been making some pretty clear strategic errors, and I guess we can talk about some of those.
Yeah, let's talk about those. What do you think that he could do differently? What do you see? What kind of mistakes do you see him making? And talk to us about how he could improve.
Well, he came in to the final table as the chip leader, and on the second or third hand, he raised with ace-9, and I think his name's Ben. Is that right?
Ben, yeah.
Yeah, Ben re-raised with ace-queen. And then Matthew elected to call out of position with ace-9, which is just a huge fundamental error because you're going to be dominated a ton of the time.
He limped. He was in early position, right? Maybe under the gun? Or?
I think he was in second position. Okay. Matthew raised the button, and then he called. And the flop came Jack 8-5 or something like that. Something like that. Jack
I think it was Jack 8-4.
Yeah, probably Jack 8-4. So he checked, Ben bet, a reasonable amount, and then Matthew called out of position again with just ace high. And that's just a spot where he's probably thinking, well, I have ace high, it's probably good, and that's not nearly good enough of a reason to call. So,
can you explain to people who maybe aren't as advanced why that's not a good reason to call?
Well, you're likely behind with the ace high already, and if you're not behind, you're not really going to be able to continue on very many turns if your opponent bets again anyways.
Right.
And if you do happen to peel a 9 or an ace, you may end up getting in trouble if your opponent has that hand beat. And that's exactly what happened, is the ace came on the turn. And so Matthew checked again. Ben made another bet. He had ace-queen. So he made a bet for value. And Matthew called again. River was like a pretty breakish card. I think it was a 7 or something like that. Matthew checked. Ben went all in. And Matthew was stuck in a spot where he had top pair, crappy kicker. And even then he can't really beat much. And I was talking to Tony Dunstan in the booth, and we were just like, well, he made a error on pretty much every street besides the turn, we think. He should have folded pre-flop to the re-raise. He should have definitely check-folded the flop. On the turn, probably can't fold the ace then. But then on the river, whenever it's ace, jack, 8, 7, 4, or something like that, ace-9 really doesn't beat much. You lose to every ace. Then you lose to, random 2 pairs, random sets. And I believe a backdoor flush draw came as well. So he also loses to that. So that's just a spot where he doesn't beat anything. And
did he make the call or did he muck?
He did make the call. He thought for forever, and he didn't make the call. And
kicker school.
Like that. Yeah, and so if he continues playing like that, he's not going to be in really good shape. He went from chip leader to almost last in chips on that hand. And then a few hands later, Steve Brecker, who is a very good professional, I've actually talked to Steve through email a little bit. He's read my book and studies the game a lot. He seems to be really into the young poker culture and studies up on what the young guys are doing.
He looks pretty solid.
He is. He plays a tight game, but
little tight.
I can guarantee he has some bluffs in there. He doesn't have it all the time.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering about that. I mean, he looks like he's got it all the time. You got to give him credit.
He does.
Yeah.
And he gets away with all of his bluffs.
Sure he does. Yeah.
So he raised under the gun with Queen Jack suited, and David Diaz, who is also I think he's kind of a maniac, probably a little bit too crazy.
I agree.
But I think he plays well. He called with pocket 2s. Steve Brecker at Queen Jack suited, I think I said that. Folds back around to Matthew in the big blind. He called with 9-6 offsuit, which is probably not a good play. But the board came Jack 6-6. So now Matthew has effectively the nuts. He's looking for sure to double up. So he checks. Steve bets with his Queen Jack. And then David Diaz with the pocket 2s elects to bluff. He makes a min-raise bluff. And that effectively let Steve off the hook because now Matthew went all in. And now Steve's saying they were Queen Jack on Jack 6-6 after a guy raises and another guy shoves. And while he's probably ahead of one of the 2 guys, he's almost certainly beat by one of them. One of the guys is going to have a bigger jack or a 6 of some kind. And so Steve thought for a while, and I think it's a pretty easy fold, but I think he may have almost leveled himself into thinking, okay, David Diaz probably can't have much here, because you really shouldn't raise with anything good on Jack 6-6, especially with a kind of tilty guy behind you in Matthew. So
some mistakes.
And Steve ended up folding, which he did, and of course David Diaz folded, and that let Steve off the hook in a spot where Matthew would have almost certainly doubled up if David Diaz just folded.
Right.
So
What do you think he should be doing differently? If he was sitting here with you right now and paying you to coach him, what would you say to him?
if who was Matthew?
Matthew.
Well, I would tell him to totally change his game.
Would you tell him to not limp in early position with ace-9 offsuit?
Well, he raised with ace-9.
Oh, he raised. Okay.
Raised, but he should certainly never call 3-bets out of position with ace-9. That's a pretty large error. I think he should really just tighten up a bit because people are playing pots with him now just to try to trap him. And if you don't adjust your game, they're just going to make top pair and they are going to trap you at some point. So he really just needs to tighten it up a bit, play a little bit more hands in position and not be playing big pots out of position.
Okay. On the other side of the coin, do you think Ophir needs to loosen up a little bit? He seems to be playing pretty tight to me.
I only got to see the first hour of the tournament because they had a sequestered, and he didn't have any good hands for the whole first hour. He played 2 hands, I believe. One time he raised from early position with something that was just mediocre, and everyone folded. And then the only other hand he played, David Diaz raised the button with pocket 3s, and Ophir he had like 25, maybe 28 big blinds. So David Diaz made it 2 big blinds. Ophir made it 5.5 big blinds with 7-4 offsuit, and then David Diaz folded. So he has had no cards at all, at least from what I saw, but he's making something happen. And that, he's had just crap, but he's still breaking even or slightly accumulating chips. And that's something that a lot of good professionals do, is they break even or still gain chips even when they just get awful cards.
Right.
And I mean, if he's manufacturing 2 winning hands out of 2, that's a good thing. And that's sort of like what Steve Brecker does as well. He plays a generally tight game, but whenever he goes card dead, he plays tight enough such that he can get away with re-raising with garbage, and he can't get away with raising with garbage. And that's this exact same thing Ophir was doing. So, assuming he's had all trashy hands, I like the way he's playing.
Okay, well, we always appreciate your commentary. You're one of the greatest strategic minds in poker, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would concur.
Well, thank you.
What's next for you? You're off to France.
I'm going to France for the World Series Europe. I am driving to New York City in as soon as I'm done with this interview. And then I am getting on a plane tomorrow for the World Series Europe, and after that I'm going to be going to San Remo. So if any of you guys see that, or see me there, come say hello.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to say hi, although I only speak English, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
That's it.
That surprises me because you're all over the place.
Just a dumb American.
Yeah, me too. And, we can always catch your videos at pokerstrategy.com where you have a lot of strategy videos.
You can have a wide library. I try to make a lot of different stuff where we do some videos on specific topics that people have requested. If people want to see how I 3-bet or how I deal with 3-bets or how when I continuation bet.
So you're open to public requests? If somebody has a question specifically for you, you're open to that?
I'm more than happy to do anything like that. I believe there was a thread in one of the forums back a little while ago where you could send in a hand history and I would go over that hand history for you in a video. And a lot of members seem to like that. It lets people see how they can improve immediately. And I have a lot of private coaching students and they've been doing very well just because for some reason I can look at someone's game, pinpoint exactly what they're doing wrong, or at least what their biggest leaks are, and then say, look, if you fix this, you're going to become a winning player. And usually they fix those few things, and sure enough, they start winning. Like one of my students won the $320 W coup.
Did they?
Last night.
Did they? Who?
So, well, not going to out him. They actually chopped it. A lot of my students like to remain secret.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I'm going to go search it just for my own personal satisfaction.
You'll have to do that. So.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us. I know that you have a bunch of stuff to do. And for pokerstrategy.com, I'm Kim Shannon with Jonathan Little, the greatest mind in strategy we've talked to today. So thanks again, Jonathan, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.